which is completely silent and will not really contribute to any noise. So let's get started. My name is Ridhima Wali, and I extend a warm welcome to each one of you to this confluence and convergence of thought leadership, insight sharing, and a platform where we'll be sharing a lot of pragmatic experiences and trends with the industry stalwarts and experts. Welcome to this event, which is called the Global FinTech Fest. Can we give a big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen? Friends, FinTech globally is innovating at a breakneck speed and adapting newer technologies to make an impact people's life in a quicker, positive, and a lot more scalable fashion. Policymakers, on the other hand, are working to facilitate this change systematically in a secure fashion and for long-term implication. Adoption of these technologies is being driven by collaboration between fintech, government, and numerous corporations. The third edition of Global FinTech Festival is organized by the National Payments Corporation of India, NPCI, Payment Council of India, PCI, and Fintech Convergence Council. This year marks the 75th year of India's independence. India has already made exceptional progress in the fintech adoption and is today a role model for the entire world. As India prepares to take the G20 leadership in the coming year, GFF 2022 will showcase India as a dominant fintech thought leader and demonstrate India's fintech ecosystem to the world. GFF 2022 will provide participants a really vibrant and relevant platform to engage with public and private sector stakeholders, collaborate and augment learning, and take action towards enhancing sustainable finance globally. The conference will include discussion on thought leadership topics, product showcases, tech talk, startup tales, Fin Inclusion Labs, and much more. This year, this platform will also bring together the stalwarts from industry, government, policy, finance, startups to really discuss, deliberate, and figure out a mechanism to decide the steps to be taken to move forward across the 4 pillars of Global Forum for Financial Freedom 2022, which are planet, people, prosperity, and principles of governance, which are aligned with the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And to get started in our journey of riveting conversations, I'd like to introduce to you all the context of our first conversation, which is going to take place with our esteemed conversationalists and members who will be taking the conversation forward. The entire premise of transfer of funds across borders has always been a concern. Although there are several means of transferring them internationally, the time taken or the convenience is being further bolstered by fintech companies. We have our first topic of the day, which is how fintechs are revolutionizing cross-border payments. And we have with us our luminary speakers. Please welcome and give a big round of applause for Mr. Adeeb Ahamed, MD, Lulu Financial Group. And our session will be moderated by Mr. Kishan Srinivas, Incharge, Business Development Europe, NPCI International Payments Limited. So over to the both of you.
Audible? Audible?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah? Okay.
Okay. Thank you all very much. I would like to just probably add one line to introduce Mr. Ahmed one more time to all of you. I can never forget my first interaction with him, He told me that I was a career, my entire career I was in the hospitality industry, and I was suddenly asked to lead Lulu Finance. So he came with the ethos of keeping the customer comfort and the customer convenience in mind, and came into creating such a mammoth organization called Lulu Financials, which is renowned across the world, something that we all speak about. Thank you so much, Mr. Ahmed, for your time today.
The pleasure is all mine. Thank you.
I would like to start by asking you a question on, could you tell us a little bit about how Lulu has evolved, its journey and your vision for remittances overall?
Absolutely. Let me first begin by congratulating the organizers of this great event. Been told that this is the first time that we're coming face to face after the pandemic. And I think so India deserves such a platform because in the last couple of years, the amount of changes that we have seen in the fintech world in India has just been astonishing. And to be here and actually soak all those achievements that what we have done in the last 3 years is truly a feeling that cannot be expressed. So firstly, let me congratulate everybody, especially NPCI in many aspects, because it has given all the companies originating out of India a strong story to go and sell across the world. I think it's a platform that has made all of us very proud. So kudos to the entire team at the NPCI who has made that feeling, a proud feeling for every Indian. Coming to your question about Lulu Financial Holdings, we're an organization based out of Abu Dhabi, headquarters out of there. We're spread across 10 odd countries. We're predominantly in the cross-border remittance space, and just to give you a couple of numbers that tells you the area that we work upon. We work in around 10 countries, the entire GCC, barring Saudi Arabia, where we have interest to enter. In India, we are present in 2 of the licenses. We are an NBFC company, and we are also a Forex organization. And in the Far East of the Asia Pacific, we are present in Philippines, Malaysia, Hong Kong, and Singapore. On an average level, we do a transaction, a little over 14 million transactions every year, remitting a little close to $10 billion on a yearly basis on the cross-border financial payments. Apart from this, we are also very strong in physical banknotes export and import. We move close to around $6 billion every year across the countries of operations that we have. The core ethos of Lulu Financial Group was predominantly trying to make sure that we keep the cost at check on the remittance side. The group comes from a very strong retail background, so the interaction with the consumers were always very strong with us. And that led to our core philosophy at Lulu Financial Group, that we innovate value and we inspire experiences. Our core aspect here is to make sure that we continuously start innovating ourselves so we can find better value for all our customers. We at Lulu Financial Group still consider us as a startup. It's been 12 years that we've been in running, but we still have a mindset of a startup. Every year we challenge the status quo. Why should it be done in a certain manner? Why not it could be done in a better way aspect? And at every point of time we try to cut short the intermediary that we have in the process out. We believe in controlling the entire value chain. And I think so that's a mindset that we got from our retail chain. Why? Because from outsourced farming to farm fresh products to on the retailing side, the entire value chain is controlled by them. And in the financial side, we pretty much eliminate the same thing. We try to control the entire ecosystem so that we can keep the cost at check. It's been a good run. I think so. The run has been good because of great partners. And today in India, who better to partner than NPCI? It's a wonderful platform for us to partner. And it's been an ask, today with the launch of this Bharat bill payment system. It's been an ask for the entire NRI community for a very long time. And today it getting launched is a great achievement for us. Predominantly, why? Because it gives the consumer the entire control to control his entire payment spectrum. Earlier it was just the remittance where the NRIs remit money into an account here in India, and post which, they use the local channels to, further take care of their entire payment ecosystem. But today, the ability to do that directly from a foreign country is also a great element of help to the things. So it's a constant evolution. And I think so in the last 3 years, we've been more excited than ever before, because the amount of changes that we have seen in the payment landscape has been just great, and that has really helped us to stay more motivated, getting across, bringing out new products on a day-to-day basis. And it's been a great run since so far.
10 countries, these many billion transactions. fintech mindset and looking forward to the future. What more can you talk about, when it comes to the way Lulu is working in the global ecosystem? Thank you very much for that. One of the most important facets that I've always noticed whenever I've spoken to you or your team is that Lulu Financial uses technology as a forefront of its strategy.
Absolutely.
You give it a lot of importance, a lot of impetus. Could you just talk about how technology has helped Lulu Finance become this mammoth that it has grown into?
See, we started in the year 2009, and when we started our operations in UAE, we are almost the last entrant into that remittance space, which was already very much organized, which was already very much well established in the market. It was a tough task, where we had the brick and mortar setup, where organizations who were before us had a large setup of 100 or 200 odd physical touch points, where consumers used to come and remit transactions on a daily note, Whereas we thought it slightly differently. Because we were one of the last entrant, we said, why should we have an earlier mindset about how things needs to be done, It's a clean slate. How do we think about redrawing the entire landscape using technology as its forefront so that we would not be able to build so many physical touch points that is necessary, So today, with being in so many countries, I think in 1/3 of the time that many of the major establishments have achieved themselves in that market, we've been able to grow because the forefront of technology was very nice. And the technology was just not used to internally take care of the cross-border remittance, We grew beyond that. We grew from being a retail player into a B2B player. Today, we power major banks and also other institutions, also other technology players when it comes to remittance as a service providing instrument. We do a lot more into that space. We got into the capital space where we started taking care of the supply chain financing of things. We entered into the NBFC space in India. So all these were all cross integrated from one level to another. Because the technology was there, we could easily transform ourselves from one particular sector to another sector as well, So it has really, really helped us to look at, how do we capture more? And as I said, earlier we were looking at backward integration, and now we are looking at horizontal integration by we saying that, how do I influence the customer journey in every aspect, not just a remittance space, but also into other needs of a consumer on a day-to-day things. And we become an everyday company, where consumer needs to, there are needs of consumers for an everyday needs, and how do we fulfill those needs, How do we partner with banks? How can we become an extension to the banks, So a lot more areas have really opened up in the last couple of years.
That's great. Backward and horizontal integration, I think something for all of us to learn in terms of looking at a customer holistically. I think that's fantastic. So we were talking about this even before we came on stage, the G20 agenda, the UN SDG agenda of actually reducing cost of remittances worldwide, and you being such a significant player. Could you tell us a little bit about what Lulu Financial thinks about this particular aspect?
On the UN inclusion level, we categorize that into two angles. Predominantly the first one is financial inclusion, and the second one is about keeping the cost of remittance to around 3%, which is the target of the UN resolution that has been brought out. The first one I'll touch point on the first one, which is the financial inclusion. In the year 2009, we, along with the Central Bank of UAE, the Ministry of Labor, piloted a project which was spearheaded by the Ministry of Labor there, which is called the WPS, which stands for Wage Protection System. There was a lot of cry in the market that, the labor market or the blue-collar market was not getting paid on time because the banks were not able to accommodate them as a consumer. There was a large-scale debate and deliberation on this matter, and we all came to say that, we could still get them on a financial inclusion by getting them onto a plastic, And the whole idea came out where the program was launched, where it was made mandatory by the Central Bank of UAE to say that every blue-collar workers has to be paid through a financial institution, which is a bank or an exchange house in the market, And that led to a large opportunity opening up for us in the money exchange space. Today, we have taken the interest of providing the salary setup for almost 300,000 customers, issuing close to around 900,000 plastics in the market. So this really helps us. By this, a first step for us to understand the real aspect of a customer journey. It gives us the inside information of once the salary comes into the card, what does the end consumer do it? Does he just normally remit the entire space out? Does he keep a certain portion inside? If he keeps a certain portion, what does he do with all those money that we have? Which allows us to then start creating products that will help the blue-collar workers, whether it is a salary advance or, a salary top-up, a short-term loan. So these are many aspects. But yes, we are curtailed by the regulation that we are not able to provide that. But then we find partners who we can partner, like a larger financial institution who we can partner into getting all those things organized for the end consumer as such. So that's one side. When it comes to the keeping the cost low, we're very proud to say that the entire GCC market is almost one of the most least in terms of cost of remittance from anywhere around the world. When it comes to the Indian remittance space, I think so the 21 closed with India clocking close to 85 or 86 billion US dollars as remittance into the country. GCC constitute to 18% of that one, which was close to around 20 billion US dollars. So apart from the US, the GCC is predominantly one of the largest market that remits into India. Where we see the cost of remittance from US and Europe 3 or 4 times higher to what we see in GCC. In GCC, we are almost very close, the lowest it seems. We're standing around 4.5%. Is it practically possible to come to that 3%? Well, I have my doubts. And predominantly why I have my doubts is because, the year on year, the requirements of compliance is going up, with that kind of cost being added into things. And for all those who don't understand how we operate in the market versus the US and Europe, in the GCC, we are very similar to a bank without the lending powers. So we operate as a very focused network where we do only the remittance as an activity or payments as an activity inside each of the shops that we operate, or on the offline network, which is the Lulu Money platform that we have. Whereas in Europe and US, it's a more a mom and pop setup where you have a shop inside a grocery, inside a retail space, which is an add-on feature to somebody who's doing some other business. So it's not a very focused element of things, and that has led to a lot of pros and cons for us. And I think so in a conversation, I'll explain how it has become a big con for us. Why? Because a lot of banks lead to de-risking. And when it comes to de-risking, and a large volume of consumer depend on us to make sure that they keep their costs low and also remit their money, because at the end of the day, why do the expatriate move out of their country or their comfort zone and move outside so that they can take care of their family back in India? So, it's very important that the costs be kept at a check, and to the factor that, they can easily remit the money back inside. Today with technology, where it used to take 24 hours or 48 hours to actually receive that money back in India, we at Lulu Financial is very proud to say that our TAT time is 15 seconds to India. So, even before the consumer leaves the outlet, his money is already credited in his beneficiary account back in India. So, I mean, the element is there, the core focus is there, but, with all around cost going up, it becomes very hard for an institution such as to even meet that targets, because, but the focus is still on.
Like I said, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Ahamed always has the customer at the crux of his mind. You can see that all his conversations have always been revolving around customer problems and kind of owning it and creating solutions. So, great thing to learn. I think if you look at this theme, you're saying cost low, expanding global footprint, more transactions, reducing time, using technology. we kind of share the same ethos with NPCI and NPCI International. Could you talk a little bit about this partnership and India as a market for you?
Yeah, sure. But before that, even technology has its pros and cons, So technology has a pros and cons because, when I speak to my IT heads and guys, they say that, sir, the server was with us today, we move it to a cloud, and then I said, where is this cloud, and they said, there is a cloud, At the end of the day, here when we have the bill comes, it was more expensive than to maintain it with me than post it in a cloud, So, year on year, the cost of technology of maintenance also goes up very high. You need to have a backup system with large amount of transactions flowing inside, So it's a very tough act to control the entire ecosystem to keep and year on year, I think so the remittance cost in GCC has not increased in the last 2 decades, I think so there was a very minimal increase in 2000, mid 2000, which went up by 2 to 3 dirhams, which is less than $1, whereas the cost of operations have astronomically grown up year on year, with the use of cloud services, with the use of backup servers, and so on and so forth. So it's very bad. And in India, the story is phenomenally great for us. Draft has become obsolete since the time that we started operations in 2009. Today, there is no use of draft. API connections became a norm since we started our operations in 2009, which was even more better for us. Today, with RTGS and many instant services coming through, the amount of time reconciliation costs have really dropped down because of the use of these kind of technologies. I think so these are all becoming an adaptation, and more than us, we always need our partner also to be willing to adopt, and that's where the Indian story is, where most of the financial institutions on this side of the world also started to fastly adopt to the technologies that were available, because they also see the need to cover India, which is being such a large market across. The only way that they can cover and reduce cost was to go digital, And when they went digital, it really helped operators such as us also to embark on that journey and make sure that, we also bring our cost lower, So it's been a great workaround. As I said, with the journey with NPCI started for us in many angles. Today, with the opening up of the BPPS, which allows the bill payments to happen into India, it's going to be writing a new chapter for us. But there are still a couple of bottlenecks, where we see. Today, also to load your wallets into India, because of the MTS's license regulations that is acting in India, we are still not able to do that one. We still have to go through an MTO. When we go through an MTO, you're still adding cost to the end consumers. So again, the deliberation with the regulator needs to happen. We need to still improve on those conversations to make sure that, validity of an MTS's license, is it really required in today's age and time with so many things coming through, is a question that we've been always asking. Getting middle people, avoiding maximum number of middle people inside will always keep cost at check, and I think so that's where NPCI plays an important role for us.
That's great. And what do you think? It would be unfair for us to even think of concluding this session without asking you, what are your plans? What is Lulu Financial's plans globally? What are your plans in India? How do you see the future unfolding? If you could probably give us your views, we would be really.
Yeah, I think for us it's a very exciting time. The plans for Lulu Financial Hold is to consolidate on the markets that we are still functioning upon. I think so there is scope of growth in the markets that we already operated is enormous. Saudi is a strong market that we are looking inside, and we are hopeful that, in the next 12 to 24 months, we should be able to have an entry into that market, which opens a large gate for us, which is the last remaining market in the GCC that we have not touched point inside. Asia Pacific, I think so there's still a lot of areas that we can grow. Philippines is a very similar market to that of India in terms of the expatriate population traveling out for work. The Asia Pacific into Philippines is very strong. It's been a very strong market. It's been a very open market for us. And of course, with the new central bank digital currency coming in the horizon, now that's a huge change for us, And I think so we as an organization needs to be ready to adopt that change into us. I think so working on those networks to make sure that, we are product ready by the time that, the central bank launches that thing. We hear that the European market is moving very fast. The talks between RBI is getting heated up year on year or month on month. Asia Pacific, there's been news of many cases. We work with many operators such as Ripple on XRP in many markets that we are operating inside, by which we see. Philippines is a core example that we do. We work with the regulators there as well to find out what is the end case use that can be done. The use of millennials, again, coming back to the consumers, the next generation of millennials, they work on more usage of those crypto and so on and so forth. And however we say that that is not the right aspect, the interest among the millennials seems to be on a very high note. Today or tomorrow it needs to be regulated, because as an organization we don't touch anything that is not regulated. So we are hoping that, that channel gets regulated pretty fast, laying out the right SOPs and standards so that, organizations such as us can get into start working on creating our own frameworks on how it should be used up, So I think so that's a lot of things. As most of the CEOs you must have heard, they all use the tagline, that we are like a startup, But in our case, I'm saying it from the bottom of my heart. We are like a startup. Why? Because if we don't have that mindset, we will just get, we don't want to be another Nokia story, where at one point of time you used to control the world, and another time, we're losing the entire market share. So I think so there is a lot of disruption that is going to come in the cross-border remittance space. Even more disruption on the B2B space. I think so banks are moving away. I think so the moving away of the digital the physical footprint has also left a void among the consumers, where they find it a bit difficult to interact with the banks on needs of their own. I think so for us, it's a hybrid model, where today across the world we have 262 odd touch points, where a consumer can actually physically come and, have a conversation with us, Are we going to reduce that touch point? No. We're still going to keep that one. Are we going to increase more? Maybe not. But what are we going to do? We're going to increase the digital footprint in a much better manner. And a hybrid aspect of this too is really going to make sure that we're going to give an optimum customer experience that the customer deserves.
That's great. Mr. Adeeb, just probably one final question from my side is, how do you see remittances play out maybe in the next 3 to 5 years? What's your...
Well, I've read it somewhere that, they say that migration is like gravity. It cannot be stopped. And I think true to this, before pre-pandemic, this statement held more value than how it has been in today's world, Today's world, I think so one of the bad things that pandemic has caused is that people have become more nationalistic in their approach, where, they started stopping people from moving around, the cost migration has been stopped to a certain angle, And I think so this is still going to come back, It's very hard to stop a migration aspect where people move to different parts of the world for different needs. But at the same point of time, they make sure that they have investments, they have families. The needs are across boundaries, And it is very important that as long as that sustains, the need for cross-border remittance would always happen out, And the need is just not for family maintenance. It could be for many aspects, The e-commerce payment, is an important aspect, Today, in the network that the Lulu Financial Holdings, we even work with social media influencers, where a lot of people use our networks to make payments to these kind of influencers in different aspects, So as we evolve into the new space of business in various sectors, whether it is retail, whether it is e-commerce, whether it is, the traditional sectors which are all getting disrupted, the need for payment is a single tone requirement across every industry as such, And that's where we feel that players such as us have a story to say. And I think so getting more and more involved and understanding what are the pain points that each of the organization vertical finds when they comes to making a payment. And if we are able to find an easier path for them at a more cost benefit, I think so our story will stay relevant.
solving a customer problem. I don't think there is any other organization that can ever go wrong if you're solving a customer problem. Thank you very much,
Thank you
Mr.
very
Ahmed, for your time, for sharing what Lulu Financial does, sharing your views with regards to what the future is going to look like. We really hope and wish you all the very best. And we look forward to our partnership with Lulu Finance, and wishing you all the very best and your
Thank
team
you
the
very
very
much.
best as
Thank
well.
you for having me here at this event.
Oh, it was
Thank you
a
very
sheer
much.
pleasure, sir. Thank you so much for
Thank
your
you very
time.
much. Thank you.